Welcome to today's episode of The Power of Reinvention. Here we talk with my guests about the dreams, the visions, and the passions that individuals have every day and dare to explore them. Whether it's business or personal, you're entitled to live the life that you want, and no matter what the circumstances, you have the power to create success, fulfill your dreams, and live with passion. That's what I'm talking about. So dare greatly. Happy reinventing, folks. Let's do this.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Power of Reinvention. Well, here we go. We are about to launch the first ever women's series in honor of International Women's Day, Women's Month, all things incredible women. And I couldn't be more honored than to have you, Shannon, as my very first guest on this series. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be your first guest, Kathy. I feel like wow.
Well, I couldn't imagine a more appropriate time and moment and human being. You have been on this show before. We've been friends for years. The ability to talk about where you are in your life right now, you sort of fit both into the upcoming series of entrepreneurs as you're stepping into this venture, but with this very storied career of yours and the reinvention moments and pivots that you have made. There is so much to talk about. So I'm going to give a little brief intro on you for those who don't already know you. And then we're going to delve into some really interesting conversation points. And before I do that, I just want to say that it's really my honor as a woman in business, a mom. I have been running my own agency for 37 years. I'm an OG female founder. I have actually been married the same amount of years as I've had my company. It makes it really easy to remember. But as we're listening to a lot of conversations at the moment that are going on around International Women's Month and all that is really going on for women in the world right now, I think we just have to have a moment to recognize all that we are, all that we do, all that we have, all that we get to create. And it is in the spirit of that this entire series is really being launched. And Shannon, as I said, for you to be a part of this conversation, to kick this off is really quite special. So thank you. Thank you for being available in your very busy, crazy life.
Well, thank you. And that is very beautiful and so appropriate, right? There's so much going on in the world and across people's lives right now. I think there's just a lot of upheaval in every way, right? But also like we're quite lucky and so lucky to be here and, so have so much admiration for your career and the life that how you show up. I have admiration for how you show up, right? Across all areas. So thank you for having me. I'm very honored to be your first guest and here we go.
Now, I was going to say, now let's go talk about something that will inspire others to be as happy as we are. And I think, that is such a part of this conversation, which is our ability and our sense of entitlement to be able to create what we want in our lives. And you're very much at that crossroads. So I really want to lean into that. For those who don't know Shannon, she is now the co-founder and president of Barbecue United. Yes, you heard that right. Barbecue United and Barbecue World Cup Expo, a global fan-driven barbecue league and digital platform redefining competitive food as sport and entertainment. Yum. I mean, just cannot wait to dig into this. That being said, she is a seasoned platform executive with more than 20 years of experience building and scaling sports and entertainment franchises through connected fan experiences, content ecosystems, and technology-enabled communities. She's helped grow global IP across FIFA, Formula One, the NFL, MLB, American Idol, The Honest Company, the Walt Disney Network portfolio, and overseeing and driving more than $1 billion in global IP revenue and marketing. Yes, you have. She is formerly the Global CMO of Stagwell and founder of Dentsu's $23 million Story Lab. She now focuses on building scalable leagues, creator economies, and fandom-powered platforms. Just to brag about my friend Shannon a little more, if I may, which was not in her bio, but I know her and I just had to share that she's also held very, very senior roles at, let's see here, Warner Brothers, Fremantle, Mark Burnett Productions, 19 Entertainment, MasterCard, Octagon. The list goes on. So she's an extraordinary woman. And I just need to add that she is also the mother of 3 children. She is a passionate neurodiversity and inclusivity activist, including developing a national recognized fundraiser, Quinn's Cocoa 4.4 for the Cure,
Yeah.
and Help Feed the Frontline LA. So, among her many, many accolades, she is one of the most beautiful spirits and humans. And I just love that we're getting to have this conversation.
Me too.
Let's go there. We are going to start with one of my favorite questions, which is who was little Shannon? And I'm sure we talked about this years ago when we did an interview together, but I want to kind of bring that back and as it even connects with where you're at in your life now, all these years later. Like, who was that
Yeah.
little Shannon?
Yeah, it's so funny. I think I probably answered this question differently the first time we talked about it because, again, like over time, right, we change and evolve. And I think I'm making connections now back to my childhood and little
Yeah.
Shannon in a different way. I would say I was an avid, imaginative kid that loved stories in every way. Right. So I loved to create them. I loved to read them. They were a way, I think I did mention this before, but like I grew up in very, we didn't have a lot and, it was government subsidized housing and in a small town. And I felt a lot different than everybody else. And I was super lucky to have friends and families that kind of took me in as well as my own parents, like doing, great with what we had. But I used books and stories as a way to escape and imagine what my life could be. And so what's really interesting now is, I have a woo-woo side, as my kids like to call it. And so in many ways, I think I've been manifesting where I am today for a very long time. I think that, resilience helps me, resilience, ingenuity, like imagination helps me stay optimistic and positive. It helps me understand, be a better mom and a parent and cope in I have a daughter with Angelman syndrome, right? Emma is
Yeah.
new kinds of experiences every day. The school can call, be like, she's gagging, she's da da da. And like, great. Okay, what could be causing that? What's a potential solution? How are we solution oriented? That's my most important job, right? But my kids right now are also very proud of me for building this business. I'm over 50,
It's
not
incredible.
very far over, but I am.
Hey, I
You
just had a
know,
big birthday. Don't go there.
okay. Happy belated birthday. 50 is the new 30 or whatever we
It
say now.
is.
But like founding a company and it's funny, all these little things. Like I've always loved music. I love Western culture. I've been listening to country music since I was 15. And so like all of this is like I read books all the time. I imagine myself living next to a beach and being able to walk near the ocean. Now I live 3 blocks from the beach, right? Like so I built a
Which,
barbecue
if
playlist.
I can just point to that for
Yeah.
1 second, because that was another big reinvention transitional moment in your life. The fires
Yeah.
here in LA was sort of a nexus point, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken, to sort of say, oh my God, we're living in an area that, was way, way, way too close to comfort. Fortunately, your home, I believe, survived, but
Survived. Yeah.
you were in the hot zone, and
Yeah.
it was kind of a moment in time where, and sometimes reinventions are forced upon us or they're inspired or a door opens because of something happens. And you
That's right.
literally in the last year have made that huge move, right?
Yeah, we moved. We picked up everybody. My youngest 12-year-old Mia did not want to go. She was like, "Why are we moving?" But again, I think it's the power of community and being open to the possibilities,
Yeah.
right? Like, I think that, we had put our house on the market in the end of fall of the year before, but we lived next to Kamala Harris. So, like, no one wanted to buy my house. Uh, literally. For a
Got
variety
that?
of reasons, not the
Yes.
least of which their street got shut down every holiday. So
Yes.
here we are. But
Yes.
it wasn't the right time, right? And so I think this is like the two kind of core thesis that I've now like your community and who surrounds you are very important to who I was as a little girl, how I grew up, the opportunities that I could, take. And the other piece was being open to experiences and understanding doors of or windows opening and not being afraid to walk through them. Right. And being that knowing, like listening to myself and my
Trusting.
own intuition, right? And trusting like, okay, this is the right choice, right? Like it may not need the most popular choice all the time, but this feels right and what's easy is right. And I feel like that's a flow. And so we're going to go. And
Amen to
so,
that. No, thank you. Thank you for saying that because I feel like so many people need to hear that. And what you just said, not just trusting yourself, but knowing what feels right. And I think one of the biggest disservices many of us do is we just don't trust in our own voice and our own feeling, that connection to self and where it's going to lead us. And it may not be apparent in the moment, but it
that's right.
is our journey. Our journey is for us. And we don't need to keep looking at other people and comparing ourselves and saying, why don't I have that? We have to trust that what we're doing is our journey for us in our life. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate that you sort of pointed to that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of also amazing friends, right? Amazing community. Like Jeremy let me,
Yeah.
our friend Jeremy, you
Yeah.
know, Jeremy and I were friends. We were not best friends. And she's like, come live in my house with your children. Right.
So,
Like, and now we are best friends.
yeah.
But Jen Prince, like all these people that, and from childhood on, right? I have a group of girls from
Yeah.
childhood that we still all connect,
Right. Like these
and
different circles that are
different
part of
circles,
different
right?
parts of our lives. Yeah.
Yeah, and how you curate that, I think, is what becomes more important as we get, we have more responsibility, we have more things that we need to do, but community brings joy, it brings new ways of seeing things and new points of view. And sometimes you may not always trust yourself. I mean, kind of back to like, I do listen to my own voice, and sometimes my own voice, like, I have, maybe an opinion that like people don't like, but I'm not really afraid to speak my mind. It doesn't mean that I'm suggesting everyone do that all the time. But
Right.
also, I have a lot of great friends who believe in me, right? And that helps a lot too, which is who you surround yourself with is really important in this journey because you're not always the best version of yourself and you are not always feeling the most like, "Oh, I know that this is the right thing to do. I'm going to go do it." You may not feel ready for that either, right?
And
So,
sometimes you do need to lean into those friends or those your trusted kitchen cabinet, as we call
yeah,
it, to sort of
yeah,
say, hey, am I crazy?
that's
You
right.
know me well enough. And I think a really good friend is going to be very honest with you. And whether it's personal, whether it's professional, they're going to give you a perspective that you may not have thought about to be able to talk it out. And I think that is also one of the most extraordinary thing about women in general. And a lot of us, and you and I, as we know, have a lot of
Yeah,
friends in common and the same types of people that we attract in our lives. And we just know that we can go to them and be in a safe place and just say,
yeah,
hey, I'm thinking of doing this. Am I out of my mind? It may be great if I'm out of my mind. I just want to know that you're either validating that it's
yeah,
great that I'm out of my
yeah.
mind,
Or I'm crazy.
I'm crazy, and you're going to be on this journey with me
Also,
no
here we
matter
go.
what. Right. So hold me up, and here we go. And we're going to
Yeah,
do it together. Mentors that have come in and out of your lives. And as I mentioned, you've had a very, very illustrious corporate career, and you've made this massive pivot right now to go into the entrepreneurial world. It's a place I've lived for 37 years in business, so it's old hat for me. But it is risky and it is adventurous to go into that space. Were there people in your life from a mentor standpoint, men and women, who you sort of went to as you were entertaining this idea? Talk a little bit about this sort of reinvention moment in your life as well, because I think that's, something that a lot of people dream about doing, but maybe don't have the courage or they're worried about the risk that's involved. And here you are, a single mom with 3 kids that is taking that leap, that's moved. I mean, stacked up all the crazy,
do
right?
all the things they
Vertically,
like.
right?
What's the thing they say? Like, don't do these 7 major life changes at once. And
Right.
literally,
You're
in
like,
some
I'll
version
take
of my
8.
life, I'll do
Shannon
all
for
of
8,
them.
please.
Yeah.
Right.
Sign me up. I'll take all
Yeah.
of them at once. And basically, we have, like, in some version or another,
Yeah.
doing all of them at the same time. It's interesting. I would say early mentors were really important for me, like, even in different ways. Like, I talk a lot. I have my 12-year-old daughter, right? She's in 6th grade, and middle school can be hard, and she's having a good experience. But I was really bullied in middle school. And, like, my 8th grade teacher, Miss Bracken, who was my English teacher, intervened. Right. And she like was amazing because she course corrected me from this, it was like, oh, here's how people can show up who don't know you or have should no obligation to do that, right? And so like that was a really important lesson for me. And I don't even know if Miss Bragan's still listening, but like here we are. And then, my Mr. Ahalt, who was I got into DECA, which is a business and marketing club in high school, and started a company when I was 17 years old. So I've actually built something before, and we won like the national championship for DECA. But
Amazing.
it all started because I wrote a paper and it was a B, and he's like, this isn't good enough. You could do better than this, right? So recognizing when you lean in and someone recognizes that like you have more capacity and capability than you know, and you can do better, but no one's really told you that yet, right? So that was a really important milestone. When I went into sports, there was a woman named Eli Primrose Smith who ran all of global sponsorships for IBM.
Yeah.
So when I moved to the Northeast, I moved to Connecticut,
I
and
remember her
she took
well
me under
because she
her
was
wing.
involved with she was involved with the World Cup
Yeah.
94 that I was involved with.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I was working on World Cup in 2002, and she had me to her house. She coached me through how to like navigate some work stuff. And she was incredible. And Teddy Doman, who ran global sponsorships for McDonald's, right? Like Chris, I had inspiration, and then I had people who like took an active interest. And then, here we are many years later, and to this moment in time, the people that I mentioned, Jennifer Prince, Jeremy Gorman, you, Pato, Chip, like anybody who, and I'm sorry if I'm JC, like anybody that I'm leaving out, it's not because you're not top of mind, right? But it's, also my family, my boyfriend, like my people, anybody who heard about, once I learned about this opportunity, a guy who I had kind of met last minute was like, oh, have you heard about what Scott's building? And he keeps calling American Idol for barbecue. And I was like, that sounds interesting. And it just felt like in every fiber of my being, I had met him at CES the night of the fires. Then I saw him again. And then by the time we had our meeting, I was like, I'm in. Like, how do I do this with you? So, when this opportunity came about with Barbecue United, it was an idea that my business partner had, but I met some people who knew him. So the night of the fires at Stagwell, Sport Beach, I met him and his wife who works for Live Nation. I then dashed out because I was like, oh, I gotta go. My family might evacuate. I need to go home.
Right.
Yeah, sorry, nice to meet you. Gotta
That
go.
was a rough one.
Yeah, but then Reed Bergman, who introduced me to, he's a Vayner, he's wonderful, also sort of a mentor
And
to
that's
me.
actually how I met Scott during
Yes,
CES this year. The Reed and Scott were together, which was lovely. I was
yes,
so excited
yeah,
because I got to meet them together.
yeah. And then Reed introduced me to, at Super Bowl, I met Charlie Ebersol. And so Charlie and I were talking at a different point, and he was like, oh, he was like, what would you want to do? And I was like, I never had so much fun as when I was building like the IP and franchising for American Idol and America's Got Talent and, all the things that, we're all early days. Like nobody, this is a wild west of like brand integration, like second season, talent, touring, it's like all this stuff that
I
nobody had
think it
done
even had
before.
a name at that point.
It didn't. It didn't. We were just doing deals,
You
The
were doing
Apprentice.
what made sense.
Yeah, and like The Apprentice and we're learning from Mark Burnett. And so like all of these things that I did. And I was like, I just love that. It was so fun. Like it was building something. It was tangible. You could see the results of what you were doing. And he's like, oh, have you talked to Scott? Like he has this idea, American Idol for barbecue. And I was like, no. And so Reed, Charlie called Reed. Reed was like, Scotty, you need to meet with Shannon. You guys need to talk about this American Idol for barbecue. We had a meeting, and I was like, I'm in, like, tell me how I can be your co-founder. I want to do this. He had done a lot of work, like so much research. He'd been, this was his idea. He'd been doing it for like a year, merchandising it, learning, building. And so, it was like one of those things where like every fiber of my being knew that this was the thing. Like, go figure out how to do this. It's the right time. You have enough, resources, understanding, like everything's a build, right? Like you get a bunch of Legos. It's like I always say, like you give kids Legos, right? Some build a castle and some build just stack them on top of each other.
Yeah,
Like I'm over
exactly. Well
here. I'm like,
said.
how do I build a kingdom? Let's go.
Right. It's great.
So anyway, that's what has happened. And, I would say like along the way, there's micro moments of mentoring and then there's more formal moments of mentoring. And a lot of it's about your if you're open to receiving them and
Yeah.
listening and understanding that's what's happening for you. And sometimes you don't see that right at the moment, but you can see it in the rear view, right? You're like, got it. So
So,
I'm sure you've had your
question for
same.
you.
You've also done it
Oh, I've definitely, I mean,
a
37
million
years has
times.
been
Yeah.
right. The roller coasters and then the opportunities that come to you where it's like, oh, someone could just, hire you to sit at the top of their castle.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have all these sleepless nights or moments of concern or where's the next business coming from or how do I
Yeah.
take care of all these people in my life that are my overhead
Yes.
and, keeping
Yes.
the lights on. And that has been a daily concern. There is no such thing as a vacation. You don't lie on a beach in Hawaii when you're on vacation and not think about your business because it's your baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it goes with the territory, but it's all the joy, and I would not have it any other way. And I am so blissfully grateful for the fact that I feel that way still after all these years. I feel like it's day one and day third, 37 years. But
Yeah.
I have to ask, and I ask this because those who have had that fantasy and that dream, as so many people do, and they have that gnawing feeling, especially at a certain point in your life when you get to a certain age or a certain stage where you're like, and we're living in a very different world where, the old, model of, graduate college, stay at a company for X number of years, get the gold pocket watch, that whole
Yeah.
conversation, that just doesn't exist anymore. So, there are a lot more entrepreneurs in the world. There is a lot more opportunity, although we're nowhere near where we need to be as far as female-funded businesses and female entrepreneurship and female leadership. We are light years ahead of where we were when I started out. There were no
Yeah.
mentors, so to speak of. There were no women's group. There wasn't a female quotient and a Shelley Zallis in the
Yeah.
world. None of this existed.
None of that. Yeah.
And I just kind of had this vision of I'm going to create what I want and I'm going to build what I want. And I am. I mean, literally that expression of build your own table. I mean, that's all I ever knew and that's what I did. So I
Yeah.
love seeing how many people are getting to enjoy and experience that. But you definitely had to sort of probably think for a moment, I would imagine, about the financial risk in becoming an entrepreneur as opposed to the security that comes with just another great job. So,
Yeah.
how did you calibrate that for yourself? And I ask this purely because I want folks to understand where you know, it may be okay to take a few risks. And it's not for everybody, obviously, and
Yeah.
timing is everything.
Yeah. So it's interesting, right? Like I think I had done this before. So when I was married, when Emma was diagnosed, I quit my job and I started consulting. I actually in 2008 I left Fremantle and went to a startup for like a cup of coffee. The market crashed. you know, I was like, I got pregnant, like I was like, oh my God, with the twins, IVF, like the whole thing. Right. And I
All
was
of
like,
it.
oh my God. And then when Emma was diagnosed, I did the same. I went and I started consulting. Right. And that's how I found my way into the Story Lab with Angela, who like brought me in to help her build it. And I'll be forever thankful because and Janet Bayless, who got me into Warner Brothers, right? Like all
Yeah.
these unique moments where people show up, right? And they're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. So then what that creates is a feeling of like, okay, I can't control anything really, right? But if I can focus on what I know about myself, what I believe to be true, what I want to do, right? Like the universe will find a way of rising up to meet you. And that may not be expected. I mean, listen, I didn't choose to leave Stagwell, but I wanted to leave. It was, like we were at a point where we both recognized that like it wasn't the right timing. It wasn't, we weren't going in the same direction. Like they didn't need me for what I wanted to
We're
bring to the
great at
table.
doing right. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was okay. And it was perfect because in my heart, like in my mind, again, every fiber of my being was like, this is what I want to do. Right.
And
So I
your
needed,
energy was already out the door. Like you were
yeah,
already attracting that for sure.
yeah, I attracted it and I got it. Right. So
Yeah.
that said, like I grew up with not a lot. So I have like financial insecurity. Like I get
Hmm.
very like, I don't have an income, but I had also been advising Breakaway for quite a while and actually doing a lot of stuff for them, not because they were paying me. I was on the board, like whatever, but I just really like their business, right? I'm very passionate about I think their business is so amazing and like, and I don't say that about every business. You feel the same way about Recast. Like
Right.
there's these businesses that you're
Exactly.
like, this is an amazing
This is,
business. Like
yeah.
so much opportunity. So anyway, so then they brought me on and as an advisor and a consultant, like and it's and Stephen Wolf Pereira doing Alpha, like he is so inspiring to me and such a good friend. And, I came in early to Alpha as well.
Yep.
But then my best friend lives next door, Kristen Darcy, right? So she's like in the mix and like I've watched her change careers and go like up and down. So you realize like you can control none of it. What you can control is what I believe in myself. I know that my friends will come and where they can help. And like it's a scary time for a lot of people. A lot of
Yeah.
people have lost their jobs. A lot of people, and I know a lot of them, right? And so as do you. And I think but also the world has never been more accessible in a lot of ways. So if you have an idea, go out and learn how to vibe code on Unlovable. Figure out how to use Claude and co-work, like figure out how to
Like
build.
invest, like you're saying, invest in yourself. Invest
Yes,
in the
invest in
time. I
yourself.
mean, you could sit in your pajamas at 11 o'clock at night instead of watching another great Netflix show and do the work,
Watch
right?
YouTube videos about how to better use. I mean, I just taking a free crash course right now
Yeah,
from, Dan Mallory, I think his name is. And I
right.
found him on YouTube and I was like, cool, I'm now going to take his course and it's amazing, right? Like, so, and I can use it for all parts of my life, right? So
Yeah.
I think the other part is like, we are in a very interesting time and now is the time to invest in yourself. And that can look like take a walk if you need one. It can look like, get your diet thing in order, you know, figure out how to organize your life or your calendar, right? Career
And
focus for moi.
but it will have a trickle effect though on the rest of your life. It's like
That's right.
dropping a rock in the pool. It's the ripple effect. There is no, I mean, look, we are very complex individuals. I talk
Right.
about this all the time in the reinvention topic that, every part of our lives is accessible to us to tweak, to morph, to reinvent, to shape. And if we just focus long enough, if we listen, if we really stay still and listen for a moment, and to your point, whether it's our health, our hobbies, our spiritual, our family, our friends, our work, our careers, just
Yep.
one of those things will have a ripple effect on every other part of our lives. So,
Yep.
to not get caught up in the big picture of, oh my God, what's going to happen if
Totally.
that doesn't work or da 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 da. But and look, some people are going to go through a 5-minute reinvention and others will be a 20-year plan. I mean, if you put that point
Totally.
in the GPS, you'll
Yeah.
get there. Just there may be detours and bumps
And
in
you
the
may not even
road
know
and
where you're going to end up. I mean, that's
right.
the other part,
That's
right?
the
Like
beauty.
I would say this has started for me meaningfully in 2019.
Yeah.
It started personally with this diagnosis with having my twins. Like it created all these like really unsettling, like, oh my God. And then you figure out you can do that, right? Like I can get through, I can do this, right? That I started writing because of that. Like I had a community that showed up, right? So that was like, oh, and this makes me feel good. So then when I lost my job at Honest, that was a moment of real reinvention for me because I had
Yeah.
to go back and I would say everyone should do this thing, which is what we're talking about right now, which is write down everything that makes you feel good. If you love to write, if you love to draw, if you love to sing, if you love to dance, if you love, to go for a walk, if you love to bird watch, whatever it is. Apparently, people over 50 like to bird watch. I just found
Okay.
out. Greg told me.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Glad, can't
But
wait to
like,
try that.
yeah. Yeah. But like, what are those things that
Yeah.
give you joy
Joy.
and
Yeah.
write them down and then do them? Like, figure out how to do one of them twice a day to to bring your soul, like your
Yep.
parasympathetic nervous system, how you have the
Exactly.
sympathetic nerve and the
Abs-
parasympathetic, to ground yourself in the feeling. Those feelings create energy ripples that then translate into other parts of your life. So and I did my second list was like, how do I want to feel in a job? And then Stagwell job came or MDC came, right?
yeah.
And I was like, and Horizon, right? And even though I didn't stay there that long, I went to MDC next. But it was a very interesting. And now I literally think like the whole list, I could look at the list right now and I could say my
Check,
personal life is
check,
aligning
check.
to that. My professional life is, and those two are now like this,
Yep.
obviously.
Right.
So
But
I
that's
would
amazing. And I think,
totally.
one of our exercises in the book, one of my power tools is exactly that exercise where you make a
Yeah.
list of everything that brings you joy and that you value in your life. And then really take a look at it and look at how much in your life is not aligning with that. And to your point, start to check that list. I have a girlfriend who literally, I've had 3 conversations with her in the last 2 weeks, and she was giddy last night telling me about the pottery classes that she's going to start taking again. And she's in her 60s and she's moved and had all this, illustrious career. And she's like, I'm going to go back to doing pottery again. And I'm like, oh my God, I remember when I was 12 years old and I used to go on Saturday nights and then we'd go for fish and chips afterwards. And we're having this whole conversation. It
Yeah.
completely elevates your state of being. And it also
Totally.
reminds you the ability you have to control the way you feel and what you create for yourself. And
Yeah, you get a
that's very
choice.
powerful.
You get a choice, right? Like you can
Yeah,
sit back and be like, and by the way, it's not to say there's not space for that. Like you have to go through the feelings that you have in order to get to the other side, right? There's no way over and there's nowhere under. Like if you have feelings and something happened, like if you get fired, you go through the feelings,
yeah,
like
yeah.
do the feelings, but
Give
then
yourself that
also know
grace.
on the, yeah, give yourself grace. Grace is a very powerful word. I use it all the time. Like, grace is important to give yourself, other people, all the things. So yeah, I think, but that's a super powerful list. And then the list could also be like, I just like to learn things. So, like, I'm going to spend an hour a week learning something, you know,
Something. I love that.
you know,
Very sadly, we are starting to run low on time, but I want to ask you one more question or not. There may be more, but I want to ask you, as we're focused around women,
yes,
you are known among our very large, beautiful circle of amazing women, for hosting our gorgeous Friendsgiving that we do every year at your place. And, you really understand the power of female friendships, and we've touched a bit on it. What does the power of women lifting each other up mean to you?
I think it's so important. I had this, we all have different ways of being in the world, right? And a lot of it, some of it's role dependent, right? Like you're the mom over here and you're this over here and you're this over here. And I recently had this very vulnerable moment with a group of girlfriends who, I don't get to see all the time, but I really love them and they're amazing. I started crying. One of the women started asking me questions about, Emma and all these other things. And I don't cry very, like I don't get weepy. And it was like this all of a sudden, like, I started crying, then other people started crying, then other people were being more open, and I felt like it, like, kind of, like, tore off this wrapper that people were like, "We wanna know because we wanna be there," and I think a lot of times as women, we hold a lot of things, and including space for other people, even when we don't necessarily have space to give it, and I think that women have the power to use our all the multi skills we have of like, emotional connectivity, vulnerability, resilience, effort, the expectations that are on us. All of that creates strength and confidence and all of these things. And I think as women, we also get the opportunity to be there for one another to remind us all that that is what we are made up of.
It's
And my
beautiful.
friends
You're
do
right.
that for me. I have so many different groups of girlfriends now. I feel like, oh my God, I didn't mention everybody.
Right,
But like at different times, it's like I've got Autumn and Jen and Monique who make me laugh endlessly. Right. Like,
right.
and that's a different group than this group over here. And each of those groups fill me in a different way. And then the opportunity for Friendsgiving is to like, let's create a larger environment to have this with no like economic ambitions,
Agenda, right, right.
no agenda. My Kenter mommies, like everybody comes and they
It's
all
all
don't
it's
know
all
each
hard.
other. It's all hard, right?
Yeah,
It's like
it is.
everybody across my life, except for my, young friend, my childhood friends, because they can't make it. But like
Yeah,
literally everybody from across my life, best friend from Utah, Erin came in, like
yeah.
it's just, and for me, that is a moment of like being in a room where the energy, the wave like frequency is so high. And to watch connections between like like I have people now that are friends because of
because
that
they
thing.
met in that moment. Exactly. And
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing. I mean, you and I are so alike in that way. And I have my sort of groups and growing up around the world and all the different, and then the high school and the kids and the mommy groups and the people across the
Yeah.
country. And, you bring all these people together. I did this for my 60th birthday a few years back, more than a few years. And, brought everybody together for 4 days in Palm Springs, and just watching these different groups start to interconnect. It was like, wow. And you
Yeah.
realize they all speak, as you said, to the different parts of who we are, and to have the grace to recognize in ourselves the beauty of all that we are and all that we're capable of. And man, are we women amazing humans. I mean, we just
Yeah.
are. And I think we get to, it's almost like holding a mirror up as we look at our friends, because each
Yeah.
one reflects back to us the different parts of who we are. And,
Yeah.
not everybody recognizes that in themselves. And I think you and I are sharing for everybody's benefit to take a moment to appreciate what that
Yeah.
really means for each and every one of us, because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
And who we want to be, right? Like I met a new woman at my own party,
Love
my
that.
own dinner,
Right.
that Tara, who,
Yeah.
I didn't know her, and she's much younger, and she is
Yeah.
just like this most
Oh, she's
generous
delightful.
spirit, right? You met her.
Yes, I
So
met
like,
her.
she literally, we have now been friends, right? She was
Yeah.
friends, but friends of friends, as you know. And
Yeah.
like, she sent me a video for Quinn from Drew Brees, like this week, that literally was like the
Aw,
highlight of his life.
my
And
God.
she just, she's like pure light. And
Yeah.
so I think the other part is I look at Tara and I'm like, she is like, I want to be more like that.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so I think it's who we are, but also like it's a mirror for like, oh, these are the parts where like when I'm around her, I feel lighter and brighter. Right. And that's also a nice way to think about our friendships, which is like they give us different feelings, and those feelings are part of the quilt of
Yeah.
who we are,
Yeah. That's
and who we want
beautiful.
to be. So
All
anyway,
right, my friend. Well,
love you.
I love you and I
You're the
love this
best.
conversation. And I am just thrilled that this is what is going to kick off the rest of the month. As a matter of fact, everybody stay tuned, because I think we're going to go well into April. There are too many extraordinary women that are going to be a part of this series. So tell your friends, tune in, share the love, share the light. Shannon, you are a force. I am so excited to watch and be a part of what's to come. Giving you huge hugs and huge love, and happy
Me too.
International Women's Month to everybody.
Happy International Women's Month. Like, let's
And
go.
let's go. Let's get to.
Every month should be International Women's
I
Month.
think
Let's
it
be
is,
honest.
actually. I don't know. I kind of
I
act
think
like
it
it
is.
is. Don't you?
Yeah, why not? I love that. Yeah, like I think it's, and also think about that, right? Which is like, how do we treat each other in that way, right? Like, I'm so honored to be here, Kathy. I really appreciate being a guest of one of your
Thank you.
many distinguished guests who will show up as well. You are doing amazing things too by just creating the community you create. So thank
Thank
you for
you.
having me.
I appreciate that. All right,
Yeah.
love. Well,
Yeah.
thank you,
Okay.
everybody, for tuning in, and very happy reinventing whatever it is. And if you want to connect further with Shannon or myself, just check the show notes. There'll be some details in there. And have a wonderful rest of your day, everybody. And bye to you, my love. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Power of Reinvention. If you enjoyed this episode, please head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and review the show. Wouldn't mind a 5-star review. It would be greatly appreciated. Also, be sure to visit thereinventionexchange.com to share your reinvention stories, suggest a guest, join the newsletter mailing list, get access to my book, which is called Reinvent Your Life, What Are You Waiting For?, and discover fantastic bonus content with my blogs, and listen in to the Reinvention Virtual Chat series. Don't forget to join me next week for another episode. Please share with a friend, and thank you for listening. Happy reinventing.